Very good evening. You're watching India Sense. I'm Gaurie, Dwivedi. Over the course of the next 30 minutes, we get you all the stories, the views, the perspectives that matter to the global Indian. But as always on India Sense, first up, the headlines.
It is imperative that those who sponsor, nurture and utilize terrorism for their narrow and selfish ends must bear the consequences.
As India and China seek to continue building on their relationship, Beijing's backing of Islamabad at the Shanghai Cooperation Organization highlights New Delhi's changed security calculus. We decode the Pak-China nexus. As the ceasefire between Iran and Israel holds out and Trump signals end to possible sanctions on Iran, will this open up more opportunities for New Delhi and Tehran? Foreign Ministers Jaishankar and Archie speak on the safe evacuation of Indians in the war-hit zone.
But we're having some great deals. We have one coming up, maybe with India, very big one, where we're going to open up India.
India's trade diplomacy on full display. 2025 could be the year of mega trade pacts for India, US, UK, and then later EU, all set to close in this year.
Hello everyone, Namaskar from space. I'm thrilled to be here with my fellow astronauts, as Peggy said, one veteran and three rookies, and wow, what a ride it was.
Will Indian astronaut Shubhanshu Shukla's maiden space voyage to the International Space Station open up floodgates for India's space economy? 400 space startups could get mega bucks. We decode what this could mean going forward. And in Mohammad Yunus's new Bangladesh, 8th of August will be celebrated as the new Foundation Day of Bangladesh, even as old tricks of persecution of minorities continue. Durga temple demolished in Dhaka. MEA slams Bangladesh. Viewers, our top story on the show. 5 years after the Galwan clash set India and China relationship back significantly, Defence Minister Rajnath Singh was in Qingdao in China to attend the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. But the meeting highlighted the cracks that exist in the Hindi-Chini bhai-bhai dosti. In fact, viewers, the trade ties between two countries continue to soar and the trust deficit also continues to widen. The fact that Pahalgam terror attack was not part of the joint statement, but Balochistan was, shows the widening schism that exists between India and China. India did send out a very stern message to the SCO members and its chair China by rejecting a biased and one-sided narrative. But the fact that it had to shows you also the extent that SCO can possibly accommodate all interests other than that of Beijing. Before we go any further, I want to play out exactly what Defence Minister Rajnath Singh said at the SCO.
It is imperative that those who sponsor, nurture and utilize terrorism for their narrow and selfish ends must bear the consequences. There should be no place for such double standards. SCO should not hesitate to criticize such nations.
Viewers, the irony is surreal. The very organization that was created to fight cross-border terrorism failed to condemn those using terror as a state policy. But New Delhi put its foot down. Condemn Pahalgam or India will not sign the statement. Foreign Minister Dr. Jaishankar explained India's position very succinctly. Listen in.
When Rajnath ji went for a defense ministers meeting and there was a discussion on the outcome document, one country, you can guess which one. One country said that no, we do not want a reference to that. Now Rajnath ji's view rightly was that without that reference, when the main purpose of that organization is to fight terrorism and you are not allowing a reference to that, I am not prepared to accept it.
So why is SCO not condemning unlawful activities emanating out of China's Uyghur problem or East Turkmenistan? Or is it that it's too politically unpalatable for China to reflect on it? By speaking about Balochistan, China even hinted at India's possible role. a reference that New Delhi has vehemently denied, continues to do so, and will always do so, because there is no proof of that. But there is proof of Pakistan's complicity as far as the Pahalgam terror attack is concerned. And that is the Pakistan-China nexus, which now covers all dimensions. And that is the reason why India needs to now be prepared for a China that will remain India's biggest worry, even as it remains India's biggest trading partner. Yes, there is America, but there is great dependence on China from an economic point of view. And that is the big story on India Sense today, which is that there is a thaw in India-China relationship. There is a Mansarovar Yatra also that has happened after 5 years. People-to-people ties are continuing. But parallelly, the strategic and security risks that are emanating out of Pakistan and China nexus are growing for New Delhi and will continue to do so as India rises, as India continues to ascend. Let's get in Dr. Walter Ladwig, our top voice this week on the show. Senior lecturer at the King's College London joins us live for more on this. Dr. Walter, thanks so much for speaking to NDTV. Let me start by asking you that as far as the India-China relationship is concerned, the fact that there is no mention of the threats that come out of the Uyghur problem that China faces, the fact that there is no mention of Pahalgam, it is indicative of the fact that there is no sincerity on the part of Chinese establishment, and SCO is just a Pakistani-China nexus mouthpiece.
Look, I think this reflects long-standing tensions in the relationship between India and China. For a long time, Chinese leaders have failed to take Indian interests and Indian security concerns seriously or give them due regard. And now we're just seeing this play out in the SCO. So this has been a forum that China has long used to try to project its image and role as a regional security provider in Eurasia. But as you've noted, its core mission is counterterrorism. Yet the increasingly close ties between China and Pakistan, the fact that Beijing has emerged as Islamabad's principal political and military patron, simply undermine the ability of the SCO to fulfill this role anymore, right? It's subordinate to Beijing's other interests. And I think we have to start to ask whether it's fit for purpose anymore.
Indeed. And this also comes at a time when the Mansarovar Yatra has started after 5 years. It's a very sacred pilgrimage for Hindus. The first batch of pilgrims have gone this year. It's a positive step, but it's really unlikely to address the trust deficit between India and China, isn't it, Dr. Walter?
Absolutely, and I don't want to underrate or downplay how important it is for the individuals taking part. But this is, from a political standpoint, largely symbolic, right? This does very little to alter or properly reflect the broader kind of geopolitical ties between India and China.
Mm-hmm. What about the Pakistan-China nexus? It has grown. It was visible during Operation Sindoor. The Defense Minister of Pakistan also talked about intel sharing. This is a threat that's only growing for India, isn't it?
Absolutely. And you can even just look at the news reports that came out in the last couple of weeks, right after Pakistan got its latest IMF bailout, that suddenly it was going to be buying or receiving from China at a very discounted rate, even higher end fighter aircraft, perhaps the first 5th generation aircraft in South Asia, that the Chinese were going to upgrade Pakistan's air defense to provide additional ballistic missile coverage, effectively China stepping in to try to shore up all the various holes that the Indian Air Force demonstrated in Pakistan's air defense systems during Sindoor. China is going to help them address. What message should India take from that? It's hard not to see that as a hostile development.
Mm-hmm, indeed. And the Indian security establishment has for long spoken about a two-front war. Our security establishment has mentioned and continue to do so that they're prepared for a two-front war, given the fact that this nexus is only deepening. Which brings me to ask you, Dr. Walter, about the fact that here is an India-China relationship where on one end, the trade aspect of it is flourishing, growing, and then there is the strategic aspect of it where trust deficit is also increasing at the same time. How should New Delhi now be deciding its next course of action with regard to its relationship with China?
Well, I think many countries in the world face this similar sort of dichotomy. The US and China have a large historical trading relationship as well as security tensions. But I would just sort of say we also need to unpack that picture a little more clearly, because although in aggregate, China is a leading trade partner with India, it's extremely lopsided, right? There are massive trade deficits. India imports a significant amount from China, is dependent on a number of range of industries, but sends very little to China. And in fact, in many sectors, the trade is actually a problem and a source of friction. And politically, this is a problem, given how lopsided it is. So it's not like saying that the trade shows positive effects on one side, whereas the security and the geopolitical concerns show something else. In fact, they're often pointing in the same direction, which is problems and tension.
Mm-hmm. As someone who studies this region closely, Dr. Walter, how would you evaluate the Asian rivalry between India and China from here on? Because India is also now a growing economic power. It is now the world's fourth largest economy, plays a very sizable role in global strategic affairs as well, has a voice, and is also representing the voice of Global South, so to say. So how do you see this relationship from here on over the course of the next 2 to 3 years?
Well, I think a lot depends on how Beijing engages India, because I think what we're seeing at the SCO play out is just a microcosm of broader patterns, where, as I've said before, China does not look to take India's interests seriously. It does not look to take its concerns seriously. China has its eyes on the United States and wants to be seen as a peer competitor of the United States. It doesn't want to see India as being a peer competitor in Asia, or a peer at all. And this is then why we see them bolster and support Pakistan as a way to undercut India's influence, to create problems for India, to prevent India from fulfilling that role that you've described, that you would expect from a country that has the economy the size it does, that has the population size it does, that has the historical and cultural links in Asia that it does. If New Delhi has to spend most of its time focused on Pakistan because China's propping them up, that prevents them from playing a larger role that would potentially, require Beijing to recognize India's influence and give them equal attention in Asia. And that's something that I just have not seen Chinese leaders be willing to do. Mm-hmm.
All right, Professor Walter Ladwig, thanks so much for speaking to us. Dr. Walter Ladwig, Senior Lecturer at the King's College London, speaking to us about the India-China relationship. There's been a thaw, but the SCO summit, of course, now continues to have some sort of an overshadow as far as how this relationship is likely to proceed from here on. Thanks much for speaking to us on NDTV.
Thank you.
Shifting focus now to the first wide-angle story on the show. The 12-day Iran-Israel war is over and the ceasefire, viewers, is holding out. And so is the prospect that Donald Trump is keen to finalize a potential deal with the Iranian regime, a deal that will offer a window of opportunity for India, because this is a deal where Trump signaled a possible easing of sanctions as far as Iranian oil is concerned. This just as India seeks better deals and greater diversification of its own. Well, what could possibly mean is that New Delhi's energy and economic scenario may change significantly for the better. And let's explain that why. Donald Trump confirmed recently that while the US maintains a maximum pressure stance on Tehran, enforcement of Iranian oil sanctions may see flexibility, especially to aid in rebuilding post-ceasefire, which could mean big contracts for American infra companies, amongst other things. And that could be the one push factor for Trump to, in fact, ease in on the sanctions. Now, what this means for India? It means that when we depended heavily on Iranian oil in 2007, 2008, we could once again have that window of opportunity. Tehran used to supply about 13% of crude imports. Then came the sanctions, and we brought that down to almost zero, about 0.04%, negligible. What has happened in the interim? Russia now has about 38% of India's oil imports. Now, if sanctions eases, as what Trump is hinting at, India could access the discounted Iranian crude once again. And Iran may offer competitive pricing. often several dollars cheaper than other alternatives. And this is great news for India because we are the world's second largest importer. A revived Iranian presence could create healthy rivalry, and India's refinery industry is likely to thrive on such competition, pushing better terms. A potential win-win situation for Delhi, which has huge crude oil bill every year. We may see Iranian barrels priced even lower to capture a slice of the large Indian market, pressurizing Russian suppliers to also slash their rates. Now, if Iranian oil flows do resume, what happens to India's oil bill? Well, cheaper Iranian barrels could deliver savings of anywhere between $2 to $3 per barrel, with India's imports being about 5 million barrels per day. Viewers, you're talking about upwards of $10 to maybe $15 million of savings every day. Now, that adds up to billions of dollars every year, doesn't it? Now, a diversified supplier base also shields India from disruptions. India could gain diplomatic flexibility. It could balance ties with the US, Russia, and Iran, elevate its geopolitical posture, giving that flexibility and that maneuverability. India's ability to play multiple energy partners could spell economic gain and stability. This could be a defining moment, viewers, in India's oil saga. Add to it the prospect of Iran becoming a part of the India-Middle East economic corridor. It isn't so right now, but that could be an opportunity and a possibility that may open up. The other wide-angle story on the show this week, viewers, 1 billion Indians reached for the stars, all on Group Captain Shubhanshu Shukla's shoulders as he became the second Indian to travel to space after Rakesh Sharma's 1984 mission. And the first Indian ever to set foot on the International Space Station with a Tiranga on his shoulders. Shukla has now supercharged India's rapidly growing space economy. This report tells you just how significant this could be and an inflection point in India's space economy. To watch.
4, 3, 2, 1, ignition, and liftoff.
3 nations, a new chapter in space takes flight. Godspeed, AX-4.
As the Axiom 4 mission soared into space, so did India's dreams.
आइए हम सब मिलकर भारत की ह्यूमन स्पेस प्रोग्राम की जर्नी की शुरुआत करें। धन्यवाद। जय हिंद, जय भारत।
A new era in space has begun, where India is no longer a participant, but a leader with a plan.
India is on the moon. मंगलायन की सफलता ने, चंद्रयान की सफलता ने, गगनयान की तैयारी ने देश की युवा पीढ़ी को एक नया मिजाज दे दिया है।
India's space agency ISRO is on the brink of its biggest leap. Its first human spaceflight mission, Gaganyaan, scheduled for launch by 2027. India aims to join the elite space club, including the US, Soviet Union and China, which have independently sent humans to space. Its first human spaceflight mission is in its final testing stages. The aim, to send Indian astronauts to the low Earth orbit on an entirely indigenous mission. And then, the most ambitious goal yet, India's very own space station. Expected to be complete by 2035, the space station will host experiments in microgravity and even dockings with foreign spacecraft. Having a Bharat Antariksh station will help India pursue long-duration missions, aid climate studies, and boost India's position as a space leader. Within the commercial space race, over the past 5 years, private space startups have taken off, building everything from launch vehicles to lunar rovers, not just in India, but for the world. The centre is ramping up investment into the private space companies with the Indian National Space Promotion and Authorization Centre in Space proposing a 1,000 crore rupee venture capital fund to support the growth of India's space journey.
Viewers, no longer about catching up. India's space sector is now building, leading and shaping the future through missions that are both low cost as well as high impact. India's countdown to a new space age has begun. It's now about an $8 billion industry, and an E&Y report says it could accelerate up to $44 billion in the next 8 years, with about 8% of the global space market and contributing to also exports. Shubhanshu Shukla's journey is a signal, viewers. Our future is out there in the stars. Inside story on the show. Nobel laureate Mohammad Yunus took over as the interim advisor of Bangladesh on 8th of August last year. He had a simple, straight task: to keep the turmoil in check and set the roadmap for elections. But instead, he began displaying radical tendencies, all the while scrubbing Bangladesh's past, its birth and its founder. This report tells you about the descent of Dhaka, as Yunus has now declared 8th of August as the new Bangladesh Day. Take a look. It's done. Bangladesh's rebirth is complete. Once a thriving economy under former Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina, to a country now wrecked with chaos and political turmoil, with election nowhere in sight. Chief Advisor Mohammad Yunus has successfully destroyed Mujibur Rahman's legacy, rewriting history to celebrate Hasina's ouster following the mass student-led uprising in August last year as a national holiday, as New Bangladesh Day. This comes after Bangladesh's interim government decided to cancel 8 national days, including 7th of March and 15th of August celebrations, erasing the 1971 War of Independence led by father of the nation, Obongo Bandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, from public memory. So what does the new Bangladesh look like? Chaos that is unending, as mob violence takes over the country, with houses of Bongo Bandhu vandalized and looted, including the iconic 32th Dhanmondi, Sheikh Mujibur Rahman's residence and a political symbol of Bangladesh's liberation. The government launched Operation Devil Hunt, focusing on arrests, trials and civil suppression against Hasina's Awami League. In the past year, thousands have been arrested and killed in Yunus's political witch hunt. Bangladesh's political landscape remains more fractured than ever before, with radical parties such as Jamaat-e-Islami, whose leaders have been found guilty of genocide, allowed to run in the polls, while former ruling party Awami League remains banned. Elections are slated for April next year, but it remains to be seen if political freedom is still something that Bangladeshis can count on. Viewers, in New Bangladesh, minorities are no longer valued citizens, rather targets of violence and persecution, where even temples are not spared. A demolition of a Durga temple in Dhaka has led to a sharp response from New Delhi, calling out interim Chief Yunus for shirking his responsibilities, turning a blind eye. Old tricks in New Bangladesh. Viewers, 2025 will probably go down as a landmark year in India's trade diplomacy. While a trade pact with the UK could be announced in weeks, a limited deal with the US may be finalized in the next few months, and a full-fledged agreement could be finalized with the European Union by the end of the year. The 3 agreements will open up tremendous opportunities to Indian exports and propel India's manufacturing capabilities. For these 3 economies, pacts with India are important due to the growth and potential of the world's 4th largest economy. Well, for India, the 3 pacts together will mean a possible jump in the GDP from anywhere between 0.5 to 1.5%. And on a strategic level, this will mean greater access to critical minerals, artificial intelligence, and semiconductor technologies. At a time of greater economic confrontation, the pacts will put India at the center of a changed global economic order. Listen in to what Donald Trump said here.
We just signed with China yesterday, right? Just signed with China. We have everybody. We're not going to make deals with everybody. Some we're just going to send them a letter, say, thank you very much. You're going to pay 25, 35, 45%. That's the easy way to do it. And my people don't want to do it that way. They want to do some of it, but they want to make more deals than I would do. But we're having some great deals. We have one coming up, maybe with India, very big one, where we're going to open up India. In the China deal, we're starting to open up China, things that never really could have happened. And the relationship with every country has been very good.
Right, viewers, with that, we wrap things up with this edition of India Sense. Thanks so very much for watching.